Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everybody's doing well. Man, it's a day. We've had 3 of the 4 seasons over the last I'd say 36 hours or so. And it's been fun. Let's just put it that way. Haven't had any shop time, been doing other things behind the scenes, but this too shall pass. Breathe in, breathe out, move on. It's all okay. All right. We've got quite a few questions over here. I'm really glad to see it. We're also going to get to some unfinished business a little bit later on, talking about getting a tool path on an open vector to start at one point, make the cut, lift up, come back to that start point, plunge down, make the next cut, etc., to keep the bit from going back and forth to make the cut on a profile toolpath. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But first, I wanted to give a shout out to my buddy Steve over at Harneal Media. I sing his praises every week, and I'm going to continue to do so until he tells me to knock it off. And that's simply because he's very good at what he does. He's very, very competitively priced, and it's 100% personal service. I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. When you're dealing with Harneal Media, you are dealing with Steve and not some nameless, faceless person in a call center somewhere. He takes his job very seriously and he takes his clients very seriously. And whether you are well versed and real knowledgeable about running a website, or you are a total newbie like myself and don't know what you're doing, he will take care of as much or as little as you want him to. And he he does it with class. He does it with style. He's not going to try to convince you to do without something that you really want. So if you're getting tired of paying commissions and you're getting tired of paying fees just to list an item or service for sale on another site that's not only going to advertise you, but all your competition right there alongside you, um, head over to harnealmedia.com. There's a link in the description of every video and live stream on this channel. Head over to Harneal Media, click that contact us link, and shoot Steve a message. And do yourself a favor for those of you who can speak. Do yourself a favor, get over there and check it out. You'll be glad you did. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for everything you do for me. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. So let's go ahead and get into some of these questions, because you guys have done it again. You have really, really come up with some good ones. I'm going to handle one from Butch Miller. He sent me an email and asked me, he was talking about the ability to combine setting your, let me bring in vCarve here. It's talking about the ability to combine setting your Z0 to the material surface as well as the machine bed at the same time, and then being able to combine tool paths off to the side over here in the tool paths tab. The short answer, Butch, is no, you can't do that. Yes, I did get your email about it, but no, you can't do that. And the reason is because when you go over here into job setup, it needs to know you can only select one. You can select material surface or machine bed, and it's going to base all of your tool paths off of that. Now, as I indicated in my video on the subject about running material surface and machine bed in the same file, what you would have to do For instance, if I was going to pocket this out based on the material surface, and then I wanted to do a profile toolpath based on the machine bed, I would have to create another sheet the same size as this, and then set the Z0 for that second sheet to the material machine bed up here in the job setup. It can't do both. It's one or the other. Okay, which says that was my determination, yet thought Vectric might be able to do that. No, because it calculates everything from the Z0 position you set here. You're not able to pick and choose where you want each tool path to run from. Now, I don't know if that's something they're even considering. I don't know if any other software like Fusion or any of the other software packages, Rhino or RhinoCam or any of those others. I don't know if they let you do that for determine it for each tool path, but it's not something I've ever seen even requested as far as Vectric is concerned. And again, if this is something that you really, really want, let's see, with my legacy, I've been creating a separate toolpath. Yeah, that's basically what you have to do. But again, if this is something that you really, really want, Butch, you might shoot an email to Vectric support with the subject feature request. I don't know how receptive they would be to it, but you can ask. The worst that can happen is they say, no, we can't or won't do that. I could see where it could cause a problem, but I could also see where it would be beneficial because, you know, let's see, 8th Center says you can just change it and create different tool paths for G code. Yes. It's just that Vectric can't keep track of it. Yes. And I think it's more than Vectric because, for instance, is your controller capable of handling something like that? And I got to also add that Butch's context, he was talking about he likes to create one G code file and then he does manual tool changes. And his controller knows when to do a manual tool change, shuts off the spindle, moves to a park position and stops and waits for him to make that tool change, hit cycle start again, then it'll continue. Well, if you have set your XYZ in your controller, will it recognize that change from material surface down to machine bed? I think you may be introducing more problems than you would be solving just for the ability to avoid loading another piece of G code, setting Z0 and running it. They will probably tell me I'm tilting at the wrong windmill. You may be, because it's a question of A, can the design CAD CAM software do it? And B, can your controller do it? Will it recognize that shift? Or will you have to stop and re-zero anyway? Probably have to stop and re-zero anyway. Unless you're using a automatic tool changer that already knows your machine bed position from the top of the Z height travel. But then again, I think just because I think doing that just to keep from having to load a separate piece of G code, reset Z0, I think I don't know. Again, I don't know if there are other CAD CAM packages that'll let you do it. And I don't know if your controller will handle it. So there's a lot of stuff there. See, let's Was thinking a Z0 message to remind. Yeah, that's I mean, that's definitely a possibility. But then you're getting into playing with the controller. So, which is outside of the scope of anything I do, because I know some Mach 3, I know a little bit more Mach 4, but I'm not using either one of those anymore. I'm on to Centroid Acorn, which is a whole nother critter. A whole nother critter. So sorry about that. Let's get into some of the others. That's another question by Butch Miller. When doing a pocket toolpath using 2 bits, I want the first bit to do a profile pass. Selecting offset, you can't select profile strategy. Yet if you go to raster, you can. First, and it will hold that selection, then switch back to offset. Okay, so is your question about it switching back to offset? That is the default in a pocket toolpath. That is the default. If you're asking why it won't do a profile, I'll just show you over here. Got this closed vector, and we'll go over here and we'll do a pocket. And I'm going to get rid of that ball nose. 0.5 is fine for a depth. I'm going to get rid of that ball nose, and let's go with a 1/8 inch end mill there. And we'll select it. So my roughing is going to be 1/2 inch. My finishing is going to be the 1/8 inch. And what you're selecting when you're selecting your toolpath strategy is you're selecting for the roughing bit. Now, as you can see, mine is set to raster with a profile of last. You want yours to do a profile first. Okay, that's fine. The reason raster will allow you to check profile pass first is because a raster is going to, depending upon the raster angle you set, a raster is going to cut inside the vector side to side, back and forth like this. And it's going to leave those cusps where the radius of that bit didn't cut along the profile inside that vector. And so you can have it set a profile first, you can have it set a profile last, or you can have it set to not do a profile pass at all. Okay. Let's change that back to first. All right. We're going to cut conventional, and we'll go ahead and we'll calculate it. Now, I'm going to uncheck both of them here. Because I set it to raster, you can see right here, it's not going all the way over to the vector. It's coming over here close, then moving over, then going back, then moving over, going back, forth like so. Then it will do a profile and come along and clean that up. Now we had it profile first. It'll do the profile first, then it'll go back and forth. Then we'll shut that off. Then your finishing bit will come in and it will actually cut up to the vector. Okay. Now let's go back in here and we're going to change this to offset. The reason that you can't select profile pass is because an offset toolpath automatically does a profile pass. An offset toolpath is going to come out to a point somewhere towards the middle, and it's going to start carving. Then move out, start carving. Come down, move out, and just keep carving like this. When it gets out here, it's going to do its own profile pass. So it won't let you decide whether you're going to do that profile first or last. No, but the profile is built into the offset machining strategy. Okay. So turn that one off and you can see how far out this is going to go. Oops, I did the wrong one. Reset preview. There you go. You can see that it's going to come in and it's going to cut close to the vector, but not all the way. But with the offset, it does cut all the way up to that vector. Okay. It does cut all the way up to that vector. And then your pocket, your finishing with your smaller bit is basically just going to clean up the corners and make sure everything is nice and smooth and get anything down here in these corners that might have been left behind. Okay. So basically put, it lets you decide, select that bit. It lets you decide when to do a profile pass, if any, when you're doing raster. But it doesn't let you decide on that on the offset because the profile pass is already programmed to be done with the raster toolpath. So let's go ahead and close that and we'll reset that preview there. Yes, okay, boom. Shoot back over and jump back into the 2D view. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see here now. We have some other questions here. Okay. Wade Custance is asking, if I'm doing an offset toolpath, can I choose not to do a portion? Okay. And I asked for clarification. I said profile, pocket, whatever. He said a profile. Okay. If you're doing an offset on a profile toolpath, for example, we'll take this. All right. And we'll close that. We're going to do a profile and we're going to offset this. We're doing outside to the right and we're going to offset this by 10 thousandths. It is going to offset that entire, it's going to offset that entire toolpath. Okay. It's not going to allow you to pick and choose which part you want to offset. The better way to handle that, let's shut that vector off and let's uncheck that. The better way to handle that would be over here on the cam side, which you would basically offset this vector here, decide which portion you didn't want it to offset, then use node editing to go in and edit that offset vector. This may include going over and starting another layer. For instance, I'm going to offset this outward 10 thousandths. Let's do that. 0.01. Create sharp offset corners. We'll offset that. And I have offset that out 10 thousandths. Okay. And we'll right click it and we'll move it to layer 3. Okay. Now I'm going to select my original vector and move it or copy it to layer 3. Now I'm going to make layer 3 my active layer, shut the others off so that I have both of these here. Now, for example, if I want to offset these 3 sides, but I don't want to offset the bottom, what I would need to do would be come down here, go into node editing, and I want to insert a point level with this. Okay. Well, let me just cut the vector there. Right click, cut vector. Come over here. Right click, cut vector. Then I'm going to grab that point, drag it outside. Come on. Jump over here, do the same thing. Grab this point, drag it straight out. Then I can come out of node editing, take my scissors, trim that away, trim this away, trim that away. Then I'll need to go back over here, make sure I don't have anything overhanging, trim that away. And now what I have, let me turn layer 2 back on. Now what I have is basically I've got an offset outwards over here, here, and here, but not there. Okay. This is also how you would join vectors that are giving you a problem. So basically you're doing all the offsetting out here on the CAD side rather than the CAM side. So turn off layer 2 and there we go. So could you put a vector over the original, the part you want to offset on, and cut that, then cut the original vector? Yeah, you sure could do that, but that's not what I understood he wanted. What I understood he wanted was he only wanted to cut offset on certain portions of a vector. So, okay, that works, Wade. All right, cool, great. Okay. Okay, we have some unfinished business that's also going to dovetail in with a question we got today. And to do this, I'm going to turn on layer 1 and make it active, then turn off layer 3. Last week, Madra 3112 or 3212, excuse me, asked about on an open vector. She wanted the bit to, say, for instance, start here, make the cut on a profile, then lift up and come back over here, cut, and make the profile cut, lift up and come back. She didn't want it to start here, plunge in, cut, then plunge in and cut and go back this way, and then plunge in and cut and go back that way. So we got into it and showed it on the members only side last week. And there were some folks here who wanted to know, well, show us too next week. And I said, okay, fine, I'll show it this week. What you have is a couple of things to consider. Now, what Ellen was doing was she was select the vector, obviously come over to the toolpath side. We'll close this. And I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these. So we'll delete all visible and got rid of those toolpaths that I no longer need. Okay. So we'll come over here, we'll select this, and we're going to do a profile toolpath. We're going to cut all the way through the material, but let's see, I'll use the 1/4 inch, and I want to make more passes just so you can see what's going on. So we'll do that. I've now got 6 passes, set passes, and click OK. So now I'm doing this in 6 passes. Okay. Now, here's the trick. She was attempting to cut on the vector. Okay. And when you cut on the vector, I'm not going to do anything else out here at all. And I'll calculate that. When you cut on the vector, it's going to go back and forth. It's going to cut around like this, then plunge down and come back around like this. Okay. Now, if you look, what we have here, it's going to come over from our XY0, and light blue is plunges, green is retracts. Okay. It's going to plunge down, make the first cut, come around over here, zoom out, zoom back in, and then there's our light blue plunges. It's going to plunge down to the next level and go back around that way. And then do the same thing over there. Plunge down, then come back around this way to here. Then plunge down and do that. That's if you're calculating that profile toolpath to cut on the vector. Now, if I go back over here and I say cut to the outside of the vector, and I come down and I calculate, it's going to do the exact same thing. Okay. It's going to do the exact same thing. Now, what I need to do is I need to go over to Start At and make sure I have a radio knob selected in Keep Current Start Points. Usually it's set to optimize start points. We don't want to optimize the start points. We want keep current start points. What that's going to do is that's going to make it use the vector start point, and that's where the plunges are going to be. Now, there's another aspect of this that I'll show you in just a second. Okay. Close this. We'll go back to the top here. I'll go back to my preview, and I'm going to slow it way down so you can see what the bit is actually doing. We'll zoom in. Now we'll preview. We can see it plunged in over here, and it's going to lift up and come back and plunge over here. Then lift up, come back, plunge over here. So it's doing what we wanted. However, look at the direction that it's going. It's starting over here. Let me go ahead and stop this. If I come back over to my 2D view, there's my start point, but it's starting over here. Why is that? And we can confirm that it's the start point. The vector selected, we'll go into node editing, and there's my green start point, but it's starting over here and going this way. Why is that? Well, if we go back in, we're machining the vectors from the outside or right of the vector. Now, the way it was explained to me, the easiest way I've seen it explained when you're wondering about this stuff, this also dovetails in with doing a pocket with the with an offset. And Wade, that's exactly what I'm getting to right now. If that is outside and there's an open side, how does it know to pick the outside? It doesn't. That's why you have to pay attention here. Outside, right. Here's the way it was explained to me. Imagine standing on that start point. We go back into node editing for a second. Oops, I got to close this so I can go into node editing. Close. If I select the vector, we go into node editing. There's my start point. Look at the direction that arrow is pointing right there. It's going this way. Okay? Come out of node editing, go back into the toolpath. Outside, right. So imagine standing on that start point, it's going to cut to the right of the vector. Okay? If I go inside left, it's going to cut to this side of that vector. It's based on the direction of the start. However, just to complicate stuff, it also looks at direction. This is set for climb cutting. This is why this is the start point, but it started over here. So if I change this over to conventional and I calculate, now it's plunging over here. Let me reset my preview, zoom in, way down on my speed. Now it plunges in over here at the start point where we wanted it to go. So there's two things to pay attention to right there. Or three things actually. Where your start point is, your machining strategy, and your machining direction, climb or conventional. Okay? So that's three things to pay attention to. Now, just to complicate matters a little bit further, what Ellen was wanting was she was wanting to cut on the vector. Well, if you cut on the vector, again, it's going to plunge down here, go around for the first pass, plunge down over here, then come back around for the next pass. The software won't allow you to do that. It's not going to lift up and come back over and plunge down when you're carving on the vector. So now what you have to do is you have to decide, am I going to cut this outside to the right? Or am I going to cut this inside to the left? We're going to cut outside to the right. So I want the bit to cut inside the vector. So what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to go back over to the CAM side, or CAD side, and I'm going to have to offset this out. So I'm going to offset it inwards left. This is confusing. I'm going to offset it inwards to the left. I want this out here. Again, standing on the point, looking in the direction the vector was drawn. I want it to go out to the left. And I'm going to offset it out the radius of the bit that I'm using to cut. So if I'm using a 1/4 inch end mill, the radius of that 1/4 inch diameter is 1/8 of an inch. 0.125, create sharp corners, select new, offset. So there is my offset vector. Okay. Now, I'm going to select that. I'm going to select outside right. Again, confusing as heck. That's going to come over and it's going to put the center of that bit right along this vector. Okay. Then make sure I've got my direction correct. Make sure I've got keep current start points. Then I'll calculate that tool path. Go straight down from the top. Hello, straight down from the top. And I'll preview it. Now it's going to cut in the right direction. It's going to lift and then plunge over here. Let me speed it up to get through these 6 passes. Then if I turn on my vector, we can see that my original vector is in the center of my profile. So that helps her cut with the bit. It's the same as with the bit on the vector. Okay? It's confusing, but it works. Now, I really don't know why it is the way it is. I really don't know why if you select on the vector, it won't lift up, come over, and plunge. I don't know why that is. I'll reach out to a few folks and see if they can give me an explanation as to why that happens. So, Wade says, so you change your start point if needed to get the direction of cut you want. That's the first place to start. Yes. You make sure your start point is where you want that to start. Then, you need to make sure you're machining to the proper side. Then you need to keep current start points. Okay. So, but isn't Vectric going to complain that you have an open vector? No, because a profile can cut open vectors. The only toolpaths that need closed vectors are pockets, drilling, and V-carving. Those are the only toolpaths that absolutely need closed vectors. Profiles don't need closed vectors. Photo V-carve doesn't need closed vectors. Sketch carve doesn't need closed vectors. Wait, I take that back. V inlay does need closed vectors. Fluting doesn't need closed vectors. Yeah, I don't think the rest. The 3D needs closed vectors if you're machining to a vector. So, Pete says, so the optimized start point selection would not be a factor in this exercise. It's not desirable in this exercise because you want it to use that start point. You want it to keep using that start point. So that's not desirable. The optimized start points is used to, if you've got several vectors out here, it's used to shorten the amount of time the bit's going to be up out of the material so that it's cutting rather than making rapid moves. Well, in this situation, you want it to cut a certain direction and you don't mind those extra rapid moves because in this situation here, the bit is going to make, well, it's taking 6 passes. It's going to make 6 rapid moves back over here to cut in this direction. Okay. So the optimize will keep it from doing that. It'll try to keep the bit down cutting in the material as long as it possibly can. or as much as it possibly can, just to optimize it so you're not spending a lot of time. So I like to control where my bit starts, so usually I set my start point. Yeah, I do too. I do too. For instance, if I'm using a Z0 position over here on the bottom left corner, I will try to make my start points over close to the bottom left corner, because to me, it doesn't make much sense to set to the middle and then have it come out here, or set over here and have it come over and start over there. If I'm going to do that, why not set my XY0 over here? Because remember, you don't have to set your XY0 to the bottom left corner. You can set it, to any of the four corners or the center. So I was just getting to you, Ed. I was just getting to you. Okay. Let me do a little bit of reorganizing here. We'll get back over here, zoom out. Excuse me. And I'm going to start. I'll add a new layer here. Call it layer 4. That's fine. I'm going to make it active. I'm going to turn off layer 1. Now, Ed was asking, when surfacing using a 1.5-inch bit at 40% using a pocket raster, I can set a depth of 1/4 of an inch and take multiple shallow passes using my Shapeoko 4 with a spindle. Okay. When I cut in one direction and when it goes back in the opposite direction, I get a ridge. Okay. When I set up multiple passes with open vectors cutting in one direction, let's say right to left, and lift up and cut another pass from right to left again, I get a smoother finish. Okay. My question is, how can I set my depth to 0.25 inches, taking shallow passes using open vector format? That dovetails in perfectly with what I'm showing right now. Okay. Basically, what you're looking at is, okay, you set 1.5-inch bit with 40% step over, so that would be 0.6, right? Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a pocket toolpath for this. Now, when you're doing this the way you want to do it, you wouldn't use a pocket. You would use profiles, okay? So what I want to do, I want my bit, and I'm going to go right to left, as you stated. My bit is 2 inches in diameter. Yours is 1.5 inches. I'll just do it for yours, okay? We want all of our X moves to be off of the material, and we know that, okay? So what we'll do is we'll come out here by about 2 inches. But for right this moment, I'm going to just go ahead and make a vector that's the same length as the material. Okay. Now, because you're using, you're going from, you want it to cut from here to there, you still want the bit to come off so you don't end up with a round edge here and you don't have plunge moves happening on your material. Okay. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to move it out another 2 inches. Boom. Well, I moved it. I didn't extend it. That's okay. And I'm just looking at my scale up above. Okay. And what I've done is I've just stretched this out. So I'm looking at my scale up above here. I'm at 6 and I just drug it out until it's equal with 8. All right. Okay. Now, I'll select that, and I want to copy these up this direction. All right. So I'll do a array copy, make a linear array. I want one column in X. And boom. I want rows in Y. 0.6. I think we want 10. Should get me to 6 inches roughly. Let's look at 12 and see what that does. They said there'd be no math. I want a gap in X. I don't want any gap. I want a gap of 0.6 in Y. Okay, don't want to group them just yet. Let's copy. Let's see what we get. That's not enough. Control Z. Let's go for 20. Whoops. Go for 20. Copy. Let's go for 21. Control Z. Because what I want. There we go. What I want is I want a vector right here on this top edge, and I want a vector down here at this bottom edge. Okay. So now I have all of these open vectors. Notice my start points are all on the right. I can verify this by tapping N to go into node editing. All of my vectors start on this edge. Okay. Come out of node editing, can zip over here, and we're not going to do pocket toolpath. We're going to do a profile toolpath. Now you want to come down 1/4 of an inch, 0.25, but you want to make shallow passes. Now, just because it's me and I don't have an 1.5 inch surfacing bit in my tool catalog here, my tool database, I'll use my 2-inch surfacing bit. Boom, and select. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to edit the passes. Okay. Now you said you wanted it to take off shallow passes, but you didn't say how shallow, how much. But what we can do is we can come down here and set the number of passes. We're going to be taking 1/4 inch of material off. I'm just going to just click the up arrow here. We're going to be taking off about 83 thousandths, 0.0625, so a 1/16 of an inch per pass. If that's okay, we'll click set passes. If not, we'll do a little bit more. 6 passes, we'll click on set passes. Then we'll click OK. Now it's going to take 6 passes. Okay. I'm not going to do a separate last pass. I'm not going to add tabs. I'm not going to ramp or add any leads or anything. All of the plunges will take place over here off of the material. So when it moves and gets onto the material, it's already at the proper depth and it's already up to speed. So now we'll click calculate. Yes, they will cut as individual contours, not as a single contour. Continue creating the tool path. Yes. Okay. Now that's kind of busy, but that's going to give you the finish that you want. Now, why is that offset up this direction? Did I have an offset in there? Oh, that's because I want it on the vector. That's what I forgot. I'm sorry. I want it to cut to machine on the vector. So, and boom. There we go. Now that's giving me what I want. And that we're on profile 2. I'm going to slow down the bit again so we can see what it's going to do. And we'll preview. And it's going to do that. Because, again, we're going on the vector. So it's going to cut your 1/4 of an inch, then move over to the next side. You may not want it to do it this way. But no, that's not what you want it to do because it's carving on the vector. Yeesh, man. We get back into that situation. Stop. Reset preview. How should I do this? There's a couple ways I can do this. Outside right. That's going to shift everything over, though. No, that should do it okay. Yeah, okay. Let's see how this works. Now, why is it going for the center? This makes no sense. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Stop. Reset. Let's go back over here. Start at, keep current start points. No, that's right. Let me try optimize and see what this does. See, Laney Shaughnessy does his this way. And I can't remember how he does it. That's not it. Current start points. Yeah, they must be joined to do these as one contour. No, I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to have to refer you to Laney Shaughnessy. Simply because he does his this way, where he makes a bunch of different vectors. He might just move these around. And Andy, I haven't gotten into that yet. Can you just edit the tool and set the pass depth? Pete, yes, you certainly can. You could get in and set the pass depth if you wanted, but if you're only doing it for one tool path, why? You know, it doesn't make sense to go back in and redo pass depths. It's going to give you the same result. God, there's a step I'm missing that I don't remember. Laney Shaughnessy over at Spindle TV does his surfacing this way. I don't necessarily agree with it, personally. Laney's claim is when he does it with a pocket like I do, he gets burning on his material. And my attitude is that's the problem. The burning doesn't have anything to do with the pocket, you know. And that if you're getting burning, either your spindle RPM is too high, your feed rate is too low, or a combination of the two. And I think you may be right. You may have to select the vectors in the order you want them to cut. I think you may be right. So let's do this. And I think you may be right. 7, 8, 9, 11. But then you have 20 selections to do, 21 selections to do, but that's okay. Not a big deal. That'll take care of where it starts and your vector selection order. Let's try that, see what we get going. Further info, just edit the tool for that specific tool path. Yeah. I don't like to do that. You can get in here, click edit. I wouldn't do it in the select button, but you can get over here and change your pass depth to, let's say it is, well, right now we've got 1/8 of an inch. Let me cancel this and let me go back into edit passes. And we're going to, where is reset? We'll take it back down to, I think it was going to do it in 2. Set passes. Okay. Now, if I, with this bit selected, if I go in and I edit and change my pass depth to 0.03125, for example, I put that second decimal place there. All right, click OK. Look at what that did to my passes. It's going to take it all off in one pass. Cancel. Let's go back in here. Oh, it's because I didn't add a 0. Duh. Hello. There we go. Now it's going to take 8 passes. And now let's see, did that have any change? But I still think what it's going to do is do one stripe and then move on to the next stripe. So we'll preview it. And sure enough, that didn't matter. It is doing them one at a time. It's still doing them one at a time. I'm missing a an issue. I'm missing something. I'm missing something. I'm missing a step. I'm going to have to refer you to Laney Shaughnessy. Now, Laney runs a tidy little channel called Spindle TV. And he did a video on it. This has been some months back. So, Steve, I'm not asking you to find a link because it's going to take a little bit of research because I don't think it was a featured video. I will go back and I will find the link to Laney's video on how he does surfacing using open bits. Personally, I don't use that. I don't surface using this method. I do a pocket. And, you know, that's just my choice. Martin says, try setting Z0 to bottom left. Yeah, I could do that. Let's see. That might change it. You may be right. Okay. Recalculate. Okay. Okay. Turn that one off. And go back into preview, reset. Let's see what happens. Yeah, but it's still doing, that did work, Martin. You're right, but it's still doing one all the way down to the depth and then moving over to the next. So that was also an issue for me anyway. So let's stop that, reset the preview. I wanted it to remove, say, a 30-second and then move it again, then have it come and do the whole thing again. So I will refer you to Laney Shaughnessy. Give me about maybe 15 minutes after I'm done with this. And after we're done live here, and I will go find that video and I'll post a link to it down in the description. Let's see, Laney surfacing video. I'll write myself a note right now. All right. Laney Shaughnessy, he does mainly live streams. In fact, he almost exclusively live streams on his channel, again called Spindle TV. And he's a dynamite teacher. He's a heck of a good guy. He's a real good guy. And he knows what he's talking about. So, does he do lots of separate tool paths, then output them all at once? No, he does not. I can't remember how he does it because I don't use that method. So, I really don't remember. Now, there was another question up here. Alan Williamson said, if your spoil board is sized to your machine capacity, how can you overlap by 2 inches both sides of the X? Basically, my spoil board is not the size of my machine table. And I can show you that over here by switching over to this camera. And you can see that I have a piece of T-track to the outside of my spoil board over here. My machine will actually cut over to about right here. Okay, about, well, you couldn't see that. Camera's way off. There we go. My machine will actually cut to about right there, and about 1.5 inches this side of this edge of my spoil board. And I did that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't need that area. Number two, this machine, the cutting capacity is actually 49 inches in X and 49 inches in Y. I don't ever use that. With a rotary axis over there, I don't have 49 inches of X anyway. I have 30 something. Not only that, the way your machine calculates its X width is based on the center of your spindle. You can't see what I'm pointing at. Yes, you can. So, for instance, when I've got my 2-inch surfacing bit here, the center of that spindle gets over here to the edge of my spoil board. In my case, I'm about 1 inch off of the spoil board over here. So all I need to do is I don't even need to bring this over to the limit of my machine, because it does me no good to have my surfacing bit way over here, because it's off of the spoil board anyway. If I can get the center of my spindle over close enough to where it's cutting off of the edge of the spoil board, I'm good enough. And that's nowhere near the limit of my machine. And the same thing up here. My machine will come up to where this bit is off the front edge of the spoil board, because the center of the spindle comes out to about right here, and then the gantry won't come forward any further. And it's just simply because the spindle sits so far forward of the gantry. Okay. So that's how I can do that. I don't need the center of that spindle, the center of that bit, to go over to the edge. I just need the cutters. I'm sitting here using my hands like you can see what I'm doing. I just need the cutters to go off the edge of the spoil board. So, all right, let's see. That's what I do. Just set pass depth as one pass, save the tool path, and rerun the final depth as reached. That's what I do. I found the cheat. I used to do this cheat in Mach 3 and Mach 4. I would set my cut depth to be 20 thousandths of an inch. I'm machining 20 thousandths of an inch off, so 0.02 per pass. And I would run that tool path, machine off that level, look at it. Does it need another pass? Yes. I would then go into Mach 3 or Mach 4 and click on the DRO and tell it was 20 thousandths higher than it actually was. So when it returns, got to its home position, it says it was at 0.025, or excuse me, 0.25. I would tell it, no, you're actually at 0.27. Then when I click cycle start, it would drop that 20 thousandths, go over and run the toolpath again. Now, I have not tried that in Centroid Acorn. We'll see how that works. We'll see if I can still do that. So I don't have to keep resetting Z0 every time. I could just go into Mach 4, click on that DRO and tell it it's at 0.27, hit enter, and then cycle start and go again. So we'll see. Ah, man. So let's see here. So hopefully, Ed, that helps you out with that. And let's see, we've got a couple of more here. Tony Patterson asking, can you show how to close an open vector? There are several ways of doing it. And I have several videos over on my channel that deal with closing open vectors, stubborn vectors you can't figure out why they won't close, and various other things. So this is there's more than one link, believe me. But I will go find a couple of what I think are my best videos and go for it. I'll post them in the description down here. But basically put, let's play with this a little bit. We got a bunch of open vectors here. Now let's go to a different layer. Let's turn on layer 1, make it active, and turn off layer 4. Now I've got 2 open vectors here. If I want to join these to make one closed vector, I've got a couple of ways I can do it. One, I could come over here to draw a line, and I can go click, click, space bar, close, then select, come right over here, join open vectors. Right now I have 3 open vectors selected. When I join them, I'll have 1 open vector. Join. I still have this opening here. Now, that's one way of doing it. Now, here's another way of doing it. Select these 2 open. This is 1 open vector, but it's still wide open. I can come over here, join, close with a straight line. So I click on that, and it did all that for me. So now, if I select this, go into join, I have 1 closed vector. Okay? If you get into a situation, let me try something else here, where we've got this that runs there and rundowns here, close. Then you have, let's see, how would I do this? start here, and then come down there. Close. When you have something like this, if you want to join this one to this one, you can just use your scissors to trim. And so long as you have a check mark here, you close. This is now one open vector. Now, how do you close this? Same way. Close with a straight line. And there you go. Okay. So now click on that, go to join. We have one closed vector. Again, this is just a few different ways of doing this. But if you have a situation, let me play with this one here. I'll go into node editing, and I'm going to, right in the middle of this span here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert a point. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to cut that vector. Okay. So now I'll select this and I'm going to grab that start point and I'm going to drag it over here. Okay. So now I have a start point here and there's my end point. But you see how long that overlap is. Okay. So now I come back and it just looks like a vector to me. Click, select it, go over here, try to join it. I've got one open vector. After joining, I've still got an open vector. What's going on? What's going on is our tolerance. What this tolerance is 0.0004, so not even half a thou, is way smaller than the difference between this start point and that end point. The start point is way over here, the end point is way over here, and that's much further away than this is. So about the only thing you can do if you don't know where the start and end points are, if you don't know where that end point is, about all you can do is you can start removing zeros. So I just put my cursor right there in front of that first zero next to the 4. I hit backspace. Nothing has changed. Backspace. Nothing has changed. Backspace. Now I've got closed. So that tells me the start point and the end point are within that 0.4 of an inch. Now I can join. Let's close this, select it, go into node editing, and it has rejoined that vector. Okay. Now if I control Z and select it, we can see there's my start point and there's my end point. That's much further than 0.0004. Okay. In fact, let's measure and see. Let's measure. Go right there. 0.3407. So that 0.4 puts that difference within tolerance. So control Y to redo that. And now my vector is joined. Those are some of the ways you can close open vectors. There are a bunch of different ways. One of the advantages to version 12 of the software is out here in the 2D view, it now shows you this black point here on an open vector, and that lets you know where that start point is. The problem is it doesn't show you where the end point is. So if you have a real complex vector, like something within like a flower or something like that, and you've got vectors all over the place, you can find the start point, but there's no real way of knowing where that end point is unless you go into node editing. And you can go into node editing by either coming over here and clicking node editing mode, or just by tapping the letter N on your keyboard, in which case it'll show you that green start point, then it'll show you the end point. It will show you every point in between also. So like if I do this, it's showing me there's my start point, and it's showing me which direction this was drawn in. So here's this point, this point, this point, this point, this point. On a closed vector, the start point and the end point are the same point. So that's a little bit of that. Now, let's see. Ellen had another question. I hope that helps you, Tony. I hope that helps you a little bit. Again, I will go in and I will find some of the better of my videos. I see Steve has already posted one over here in the chat, and thank you very much, Steve. I've got several because several things were updated, but they all pretty much follow the same methodology. But there are different improvements. Some things work better than others. To go ahead and wrap the, well, we've got 2 more questions. Ellen has been waiting patiently for me to talk about the, yes, the pocket toolpath with an offset. Her question was, when you're offsetting a pocket, is it a positive offset to make it cut further in, or is that a negative offset? And does a negative offset make it cut outside of the vector, or is that a positive offset? Well, let's get into it and let's figure it out. Then I'll show you also, Ellen, a trick that'll help you see for yourself. Well, it's not really a trick, it's a tool that'll help you see for yourself, okay? Let's go ahead and get rid of, let's delete both of these. Let's just delete all, because I'm going to do a pocket toolpath with this. We'll go in here with a pocket, and I'm going to remove that and just go with the 1/2" end mill just for this. Okay. Now the pocket allowance, what she's talking about is the pocket allowance right here. Let's say we do a pocket allowance of 0.1, which is huge. If I was going to use a pocket allowance of 0.1, I would just redraw the vector personally, just me. All right, so let's calculate it. And this is a positive pocket allowance. Let's calculate it. Now the trick, Ellen, or the tool is this. Right now, if we come over here to the 2D view, not the 3D view, we want to get into the 2D view. We can look and we can see where that's going to carve, but that doesn't really help us. Come up over here to this tool right here. Toggle the toolpath 2D drawing style. And this is why this is in the 2D view. Click on that, and this shows us, gives us a solid view of what is going to get machined out by this toolpath. And all we do is we make sure we have a check mark over here, and we're looking at a solid view. That's where that toolpath is going to carve. So now we can see a positive pocket allowance makes the toolpath smaller. Let's go back in here and just add a negative. A negative toolpath, we calculate back over to the 2D view, makes the pocket wider. Okay, you said you never used the wireframe, never had a need until now. This is solid view. This is wireframe view. This is the default. That's normally what you see. You see the direction, which way, you see these arrows, that's which way the bit is going to move. Okay? I toggle over to solid view, and that tells you what is going to be cut out by that bit. If I go back and I remove any pocket allowance, 0.0, calculate, go into 2D view, it's going to put it right inside that vector. So negative will make it go wider. Positive will make it go smaller. Why? Again, we've got the vector selected, go into node editing. There's the start point. There's the arrow. To the right. Outside right. See? Or did I have that backwards? Outside right, inside left? I believe. So, is the rule minus crosses the vector and positive inside the vector? Yes. Yes. Minus larger, positive smaller. It's counterintuitive, I know. But this is why I use this, because, I can't keep that straight either. I can't remember. I really can't remember. So I'll try one. I'll go 0.1 and calculate. Go to the 2D view. Oops, I wanted to go the other direction. Okay, pocket. And just add a negative, recalculate. There we go. I also use that when I have vectors that are really close together. I'm cutting out a profile over here and a profile over here, and I want to see how much material is going to be left so I can place tabs. I'll use this solid just to see how much material is going to be left. Because if there's not enough material for a tab, why put one there? So that's the name of that tune. That's how we do that. Does that help you at all, Ellen? Just that's another way for me to cheat and look it up myself because I can't remember either. Okay, I got to turn off my heater here. It's roasting me out. Holy cow, it's 77 here in the shed. Okay, we have one more question I'm going to try to get to here. David, Vortex 8 says, I'm designing an arm for my dust collection and I'm wondering if the part that my hose will go on should rotate. He later clarified, like a seesaw. That is 100%. Whoops, remove the wrong thing. That is 100% up to you, David. I have not found the perfect answer to that. So my answer so far, David, is I've got mine tied up with Orange Mason's line. I just put a screw in the ceiling. I'm running steel duct pipe, galvanized duct pipe, up to a certain point, and then my flex hose attaches at the end. And it is just tied to the ceiling, and it moves enough to follow the gantry around. I need to shorten up my hose. I have too much flex hose hanging off of that. And that's about it. I have seen lots of neat solutions for that. I've seen arms that are mounted to the wall that pivot, and that's fine if you have the wall space. That wasn't an option because from the back of my machine to the wall is 2 feet, and I need to be able to get back there, so I can't have something
mounted to the wall right there that would prevent me from getting all the way around the machine. So my solution was something hanging from the ceiling, but also the way my ceiling is made, these are individual panels running along the ridge. And you can see I've got outlets up there. I want to be able to remove these panels and run wiring through there if I need to get something onto the back wall. And so that's why I did that. I also have electrical traces on both sides, you know. Um, now, um, good old Gilroy Kilroy, good to see you hanging around. I have a rolling track on the ceiling as well as a ball joint. I too have a rolling track on the ceiling. Right there, you can see it, but that's my camera mount. I did not want another one for the dust collector, but as you can see, that's where my camera lives, and it does a pretty good job. I can get it up over in here and get closer, adjust the camera for shooting video down here. But this was kind of an expensive proposition. That's a piece of unistrut with a unistrut trolley in it, and hangers and all that other good stuff. That's a little over about $150, something like that. I just tied mine up with Orange Mason's twine. I said that's a good temporary solution that's been here for 3 years. I have a lot of prototypes. Now, David, I'm not saying that that is the right solution for you. I'm just saying that I have not found a perfect solution that works for me. So, I have the added complication. You can see my pipe runs across ceiling. Then there's a small piece of flex hose here. And then I have galvanized pipe ductwork running out down there. That goes into a grommet in the wall because my dust collector's in a separate building. So I've got added complications. What can I say? Let's see. So, yeah, exactly. If it ain't broke, it don't need fixed. Exactly. Exactly. I would go a step further if your luck is anything like mine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it till it is. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and end this. Holy cow. An hour and a half. Great questions, y'all. I really, really appreciate it. Keep them coming that way. And again, I will get in and do the join vector videos. I just wrote myself a note. I believe I have a playlist on joining vectors. If I don't, I will definitely add one. I'll create one, and then I'll link that playlist in the description of this live stream. I will also find Laney's material surfacing video that he did, and we'll go for there. From there, I'll put that down in the description as well. Keep the good questions coming, y'all. I truly, truly appreciate it. Channel members, tomorrow we're going to work on some unfinished business as well. Excuse me, forgot a glass of water to bring out with me. My throat getting dry. I will. We got some unfinished business to take care of tomorrow, and a few new things to work on. And your projects, and a couple of shop pictures too. Thank you, members. If you want me to focus on your project and your shop pictures and things like that, let me know. Email me. You have my address. Also, this time I remembered to post it. Check the community tab or the membership tab. It depends on which version YouTube is shoving at you. It's either the community tab or the membership tab, and you'll find the link to tomorrow's members only live stream. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or you'd like information on how to become a channel member, look down below this video panel. You'll see the word join. Click on that button. Another panel will pop up and a video will play that'll tell you all about channel membership. So we have a great crew, and we'd love to have you join us, be a part of the super secret Facebook group and private chat that we absolutely have a blast with. And these folks post pictures, and some of the stuff they're doing is just amazing. Not only that, you'll get the little star next to your name in the chat, like you see with Brooks and Robert and Kurt over at Crafty Jams and Ellen. I mean, you'd be in good company. We'd love to have you aboard. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I don't know what I'm going to have next week. I'm going to work on that this week. I've got to do some heavy focusing here now that a few other things have been taken care of. Also, programming note, I forgot to say it last week. Just a reminder, I will be live next Sunday, the 23rd. However, March the 2nd, there will be no Sunday live Q&A. We're going out of town. Linda has a bagpipe competition, and it's our anniversary weekend. So we will not be in town. But then the 9th, March 9th, we come back full force. There will be a members only live stream on Monday, March 3rd. There just won't be a live stream Sunday live Q&A on the 2nd of March. Other than that, thank you all for spending part of your Sunday with me. I appreciate everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Y'all take care.